let's get into this. So I am Adam Fleck. I'll be one of the hosts tonight. I was Navy EOD for about 11 years. I was medically retired in 2018, so I've been out for 3 years to the day, actually. I've done a lot of different things in my time out. I'm currently just got done my first year getting a master's in finance. I got 2 more years left. I'm also building a couple businesses, basically focused on investing with an emphasis in real estate. My co-host, which I'll introduce in just a second, I got to give a quick story of her. As you guys, we're going to kind of get into this THF. You're going to hear about cups of coffee. And I got a hold of her either when I was going through the THF or shortly after, and she was primarily dealing with the West Coast, and I was on the East Coast going through THF. Somebody got me in contact with her, and at the time, I was looking at either going down an entrepreneurial route or a real estate route, and they're both related. But somebody reached out to me, got me in contact with her, had a great conversation with her, and she put me in contact with some of the most incredible people. The real estate aside, I was talking to major players in San Francisco and Chicago, and then the one in Chicago got me a hold of another major player in the self-storage unit, and it was incredibly fruitful. And so my point is, she's an incredibly well-connected person. She's an incredible, talented person. She's part of the organization, and it's an honor of mine to introduce Brage. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me. So hi, I'm Brage Garofalo. By day, I do clinical research for a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. And then by night and in the afternoons, I sit on the board for NSOF. And I have a true passion for the Navy EOD and diver community. And I'm really excited to have our second Pathways to Purpose. And I think that for those of you that have joined us, I think you're going to find it to be incredibly meaningful, very informative, and I'm hoping a lot of fun. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Brage. So again, we got a lot of stuff to go over tonight. We have an incredible panelist. We have a bunch of guys that are giving us their time, and I'm super humbled to be able to be here tonight with these guys. I'm going to introduce them. The first, and in no particular order, we have Jerry Holmes. Jerry Holmes was 29 years in the Navy, 24 years in Navy EOD. He spent time at Mobile Unit 1, 3, 5, 11, EOD 2, 1. He was there twice where he retired as the Command Master Chief in May of 2020, and he attended the THF in San Diego in 2018. Jerry, welcome, and can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now?
Cool, thanks, Adam. Hello, everybody. Jerry Holmes. As Adam said, I left a year and a month ago today, or a couple months, May of last year. I retired. I'm currently working for the Honor Foundation. I went through the program in 2018, and it really changed my perspective on life and some of the things that I had been missing while actually active duty. Helped me figure out a lot of things about myself and where I wanted to go, and helped me deliver a clear path for the future. So I ended up doing an internship here with THF under the Skill Bridge program, and I found an opportunity to come to work with them. Did my first year working in Impact, which is the fundraising capacity. And now I've moved over to the Director of Programs. So in a little bit, I'll talk to you about what THF is, what we do, and how you get there.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Next, we got Chad Munroe, 20 years in the Navy, 17 in Navy EOD. He spent times at Mobile 11, NSW Development Group, and EOD 2-1, where he retired as a senior chief. He attended the THF in San Diego in 2019. Welcome, Chad. Can you please tell us what you do right now?
Thanks. Make it pretty quick. I retired January of 2020, and I got a job actually while I was still in transition at Southwest Research Institute, doing project management work for a short time, waiting to get the job I have now. I currently work for Homeland Security, Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction, and I am the Technical Assistance Team Leader. So we provide training, radiological sources, as well as chem bio, threat representative training aids for federal, state, and local law enforcement, as well as first responders around the country.
Awesome, thank you. Next, we have Chris Merwin, 29 years Navy, 23 Navy EOD. He spent times at Mobile Unit 2, 5, 6, 12, Group 2, Group 1. That's where he retired as a captain. He went to the THF in San Diego in 2020. And welcome, Chris. Can you please tell us what you're doing now?
Yeah, hey, thanks a lot, guys. Good to be connected with you. So I retired in November and got on with, I retired in the middle of THF last fall, and took the opportunity to explore quite a bit, but ended up getting on with Booz Allen Hamilton. So got into the defense consulting bit, kind of stayed, close to home. working the expeditionary portfolio, trying to do business development, and find opportunities and tools to continue helping the operator just on the consulting side. So looking forward to chatting with you guys tonight.
Fantastic. And last but certainly not least, we got Ryan Anderson, 28 years in the Navy, 21 years Navy EOD. Spent times at Mobile Unit 1, NSW Development Group, the Schoolhouse Group 1, and Mobile Unit 3, where he retired as a Mass Chief. And he went to the THF, all these San Diego guys, but THF in San Diego. I was East Coast, by the way. I think the only guy here. And he went through there in 2020. So welcome, Ryan. Can you please tell us what you do now?
Hey, thanks. Nice to see everybody. It's good to see some familiar faces out there. So I retired officially at the end of March. I kind of started an internship at the as COVID took an upswing, getting into yacht brokering, and THF kind of helped me connect with that and kind of confirmed my path towards this. Sorry, I'm outside. Seagulls. So during the process, I've always had like a passion for boats, yachting, and the marine industry. And I thought yacht brokering would be a great way to like solidify it. It's kind of like real estate. I like the entrepreneurial side of it. During COVID, I really pushed hard to get my U.S. Coast Guard captain's license. I got into yacht brokering. I got my broker's license a year ago this August. The industry's been going crazy, and I created a circle of life with it where my captain's license ties in as a service, and I got into yacht management as well. So I sell them, I manage them, help out clients, create this perfect environment for them, and then circle of life is I'm there to sell it at the end. And so it keeps me in the marinas. It keeps me on boats of my choosing, not the gray ones anymore, and meet up some really nice clients, and it's a great networking. And I got to stay here in San Diego.
Awesome. I thank you guys. Really, really impressive. The one thing I take note is there's a really diverse panel they're all doing different things, and that's kind of one of the things that I like to highlight about the THF program. It's for anybody of any rank. It really does have broad applications for anywhere you want to go, and it really teaches you how to tell your skills. So thank you guys all for introducing yourself. Like we're going to talk about the THF in a second. Just a reminder, if you got any questions as they come up, put them in that question and answer. So next, I'm going to cut over to Jerry. Jerry, if you can kind of give us an intro and talk a little bit about the THF program, how it's laid out, and give us the details on that.
Cool. Thanks, Adam. All right. So for everybody that's wondering, what is THF and what do we do? We were founded in 2014 by a guy named Joe Musselman, who went through BUDS and suffered a basically career-ending injury. And his love for the community was so strong that he started interviewing a lot of the older guys as they were getting out, different senior chiefs, master chiefs, people going out and kind of trying to find out what they were going to do when they left. And basically what he discovered over interviewing over 500 people is that no one really had a plan. They didn't know where they were going. People were definitely more comfortable deploying in combat than they were transitioning in the civilian world. So he took it upon himself to create this organization. And again, it's not one man that does anything. He had a lot of help from the SEAL community, and he founded this program so that we could successfully transition all members of the Special Forces community and help them find that job and their identity when they leave. So that is turned into just a major production and what we're doing now. We've been fortunate. Our CEO, Matt Stevens, came in about 2 years ago and took over for Joe, and now he's pushing us forward for a successful transition for all of the SOF community. So who do we help and what do we do? Members of the Special Operations community, Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. How do you become eligible if you are serving in the SOF community? Primary eligibility, SEALs and SWCC right now, Marine Raiders, Army ODA, Army Green Beret, Air Force SOF, PJs, and then we go into personnel at SOF commands. If you are under the SOCOM umbrella, you're taken care of. For the EOD members and in SOF, this is where we come into play. If you are a badged wearing EOD technician, please apply and you will be accepted into the Honor Foundation. We'll focus on that transition. What do we do, right? Well, the Honor Foundation is a 4-phase program to help prepare you to successfully navigate your transition out of the military. We start out in phase 1, where you learn all about yourself. We start out with a Gallup Strength Finder, which is different than the surveys we've done in the military, whether you've done what is it, the Hogan's or the DISC or some of the other ones. The Gallup strength takes your top 5 strengths, which are kind of who you are and how you operate daily as you go through. We mirror that up with a career leaders thing that will tell you how those strengths correlate to different jobs out there, and it kind of picks what jobs are good for you. Then we go through the Simon Sinek Discovering Your Why. Some people really like this. Some people didn't get a lot out of it. Adam is one of those guys, but we won't bag on him for that. I got a lot out of it. It was something that really drove me into figuring out what I wanted to do, because I had no idea after 30 years. So in that first phase, we work all about identifying who you are, who you were, and how you're going to move on to create that next environment and identity that's good for you. Then at the end of that phase, to move on to phase 2, we do what we call story night. You've gone through all this research, you've kind of figured out who you are, you've discovered your why and what your purpose is. And then we have you give like a 5-minute TED talk up in front of the whole class. We bring in VIPs, the coaches, and all of that. And you kind of tell a little story about yourself, get you a little public speaking, and then you move into phase 2. Phase 2 is all about your gear and how we perceive things. We do your LinkedIn, we get your social media brought up. We talk about resumes, how to write those, how to do it. We work on your personal pitch. How do you take all of this military knowledge and leadership and all of the jargon from evals and fit reps, and how do you sound like a civilian, and how do you discuss that with corporate when you're looking for a job? How do you take all that time downrange or deployed in combat zones and all the leadership experience that you have? How do you articulate that to a company that's looking to hire you? So we help you get that together. And then at the end of that phase, we bring in the top HR reps in the country and we go through mock interviews. So you have an opportunity to sit down in front of real HR people from real companies that are doing real interviews every day. And they ask you a lot of questions, to successfully prepare you for those future jobs. We teach you about networking. We put you in situations out there where you can go and learn how to network. Adam mentioned earlier the 50 cups of coffee. That starts in the beginning, and that's a huge networking tool that helps you learn how to communicate with others to figure out where you're going to be. We call it 50 cups of coffee. The challenge is to get 50 during the 12-week period. Some get 15, some get 100, some get 70. We are not holding you to 50. That's a number that is given out there that by the time you get to 50, you're pretty good at figuring out how to explain yourself to who you're talking to and move forward with what you want. Upon completion of that, we go into phase 3. At phase 3, we start really diving into corporate research. What does culture look like? And we do what we call treks, or visits to other companies. We do a local one if you're at one of the local campuses in either Virginia Beach, San Diego, or Camp Lejeune. And for the virtual classes that come in the summer and all year round as well, we do a virtual tour where we'll set up the same thing. During these treks, you learn about different types of industries, companies, from startups to large scale companies. You go in and see how they work, what the positions work like, what opportunities are there. And then we set up some networking events where you get a chance to go out and discuss with other people on that. And then at the end of that, we do a nice little graduation ceremony for you. We bring out our honor man, our valedictorian. They get their plaque or paddle, if you're familiar with that from the SOF community. And we move on, and then that goes into phase 4 where we help for life. In phase 4, you're successfully ready to engage in the civilian world. You may or may not have that job. Some people pick it up really quick. Some of you will decide that you've done really well throughout the military and you can take that 1 to 2 year sabbatical that you wanted. Or you may figure out while you're going through the Honor Foundation that you wanted to continue education and you started at a university working on your MBA program or whatever. But however that goes, we're here. We assign you a mentor that will help reach out and talk to you and help guide you through that next path. We'll talk about negotiations and offers when you start into those business deals. And then 2 years down the road, if you're ready to move again or change, or you've forgotten something, you are welcome to come back to the class anytime, pick up on classes that you missed or you think you need to learn more about. We always welcome our alumni to come back and teach and talk about their experiences and maybe even coach. And when we talk about coaches, that's one of the benefits about the program. During this 12-week course, we assign you a personal one-on-one coach. And what they do is they help you determine where your career path is, help you kind of figure out what you want and put you on track to figuring that out, or to guiding you on how to be successful in that. So really, that's the nuts and bolts of it. And that's kind of where we're at. I think we have a really diverse group of THF alumni right now that are all doing different things. And they'll have some interesting stories to share with you about their experience.
Excellent job. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Okay, yeah, so next we've got some questions that we're just going to ask the panelists and go from there. Yeah, Brage?
So, Jerry, thank you for the overview. That was fantastic. So my first question is going to be for you. So I know for me what resonated about the Honor Foundation and the program was really its holistic approach to the transition, even to the level where it included the spouses in some of the courses, because of course we know that the spouses are transitioning as well. So for you, what was it that resonated for you that after you went through the program, you thought, this is the place where I want to land after my transition?
Oh, cool. Thank you, Brage. That's a great question. You know, for me, I'd heard all this about identity crisis and being stuck in the EOD community and always thinking that was my identity. And I didn't believe any of that because I felt that I was probably the most separated from the military when it was time to retire, that I was ready to move on and I wouldn't miss it. So as I got into THF, I started figuring some things out, and that phase one just really reworked my mind. I had wondered why I'd accomplished so much in life and kind of felt empty inside. Like I still felt like no matter what I accomplished, it wasn't right. I started looking at what I wanted to do and I had no idea. So it forced me to go back and really deep dive through my life and figure out, you know, what steps I took, where I got there and how that worked. And what I realized in my purpose was that my true passion is people. That was my favorite thing about the military. It was my favorite thing about being a command master chief, was being able to help sailors navigate their way and be successful. And I felt like I was always limited while I was in the military. I could only help them so much because there were barriers that couldn't be overcome, i.e. I couldn't make sure they were going to advance. I couldn't make sure they were going to get the orders they wanted. I could only help guide them along paths that benefited the Navy. And when I really started looking at how open the options were in the real world and moving away from that in the civilian world, it kind of led me back to wanting to help. And I took an opportunity to do a skill bridge here with the Honor Foundation. And when I started working with them, I realized that the staff were as amazing behind the scenes as they were when you were going through the class. So it wasn't that they put on a great show for the fellows as you're coming through. It was every day, every staff member in our organization works extremely hard to make sure that you're getting what you want and to make sure that you're successful. And I just found I found a passion for that. So at the first opportunity I had to join, I took a job that I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to do. And I went into the fundraising role, and it was amazing. I learned so much in that first year. I grew in so many ways outside the military that I didn't even know were possible. And that led me into my passion, which now is doing the director of programs and working with curriculum and being able to have those conversations. So it basically was a vehicle for me to get to where I could truly help people make a difference. So
thank you. I think that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. So Chad, this one is going to be for you. So how did you hear about THF? And then what were your initial expectations of the program? And then by the time you completed it, did it meet or exceed your expectations in terms of what you were thinking the program was going to be?
Right, good question. So let's see, my daughter was going to Coronado High School and we were at one of her basketball games, and one of the guys, when I was back at Dam Neck, he was a SEAL and he was out doing his twilight tour out in San Diego as well, and his daughter was at the basketball game. And he came up to me, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. Talked for a while, and then he says, "Hey, do you know what the Honor Foundation is? I was like, never heard of it. And he said, well, I'm going through it right now. You need to do it. So, okay, cool. What is it? He's like, oh, they just help you transition. Here's someone's number, contact them. So I was like, okay, I stuck that in my back pocket. That was like maybe 2 years before I went through. And then, of course, Jerry went through before I did. So I picked his brain as he was going through. And then my expectations were to just basically learn about the civilian life and, you know, how they speak, what they think, what the culture is, and find a job. And during that time, the stars aligned, the universe worked out. I was able to start working on this ultimate job that I'm in now, and I was able to find a temporary job during that time. And THF, my coach, and a lot of the members there really helped me during that process. So we can get into that a little bit later. So yeah, that's it.
I will say I got something to add.
And so
I found out about real quick about the THF by Joe Cockle, the founder of NSOF, and like 2 weeks before this, the actual thing started. And just to show you, like behind the scenes, they were so great. They jumped through hoops to get me into the class. So they really are genuine people behind the scenes there. They really do want guys to be hooked up.
So Chad, once you went through the program, by the time you completed and graduated, did it meet your expectations in terms of what you thought it was going to offer you and what you thought you were going to get out of it?
Yes, it exceeded it. But just like a lot of things we do in life, you never really know what it's going to be like until you're in it, right? And it speaks to everyone differently. Everyone's going to come out of there with a different outlook, and it's an adventure, and everyone's going to have their own adventure going through it. Just like all the different diversity of these panelists, everyone's trying to get something different out of it, right? So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Merwin, this one's for you. So tell us a little bit about what your mindset was when you made the decision to transition, and then what were your thoughts and how did you feel about your transition once you completed THF?
Hey, thanks, Brage. So I was definitely ready, and I think most of us, you get to a point where you are ready, right? So like whether it's your time is up or you just realize, hey, I'm done, or it's time to go. So I was definitely ready. But I was, in my case, it had been all I'd known for the last, 28, 29 years. So I was definitely apprehensive at a minimum, to say the least, right? Like we're all walking away from something we've been very comfortable with, something that's, really brought a lot to us financially, personally, spiritually, the friendships, all of that, right? So definitely apprehensive. And I'll tell you what, probably the one word that I could say that THF did for me was confidence. It just, we're all entering a new phase, entering the civilian workforce and trying to figure it out. And THF gave me the confidence that I needed to approach it. It's like Jerry talked about, all the process worked, all the tools they gave you just made me ready to do this. It forced me to have lots of conversations with lots of different folks. I got outside of my comfort zone. I explored, it's cups of coffee. That's what they're designed to do, to make you go explore the world and talk to people in industries that you know nothing about and maybe even have zero interest in, but just talk to them to understand what's out there, right? So having done that exploration and with the tools I had from THF, I felt very, very confident when it was time to actually do the transition.
Wonderful. One of my favorite parts about the program are the 50 cups of coffee, because like Jerry was saying, some guys, it's a little bit outside of their comfort zone, so they may not necessarily hit the 50, and other fellows will treat it like it's an Olympic sport, and they will go at it with this gusto, which I think is great. And I agree completely with you that you should be talking to everybody, even if you're not interested in what they have to offer in terms of their professional background, because the world is smaller than we think it is, and people know people who know people. So even as you're going along with your conversation, you may not be interested in banking, for example, but I guarantee that person knows somebody who knows somebody in the area that you're interested in. And in the back of their head, they're thinking, where could I put him? Who do I know that's hiring? Who can I put him in touch with? And I think that that's an incredibly powerful and very valuable component of the cups of coffee and THF and networking, and really forcing you to have these conversations with anybody and everybody so that you can learn and you can get to that other side. And like you said, feel confident in doing so. So thank you. Ryan, you're up. So for the group, so what part of the program really resonated for you? And then if there were other areas of the program that perhaps didn't resonate, and if you can share what they were and why.
Oh, wow. I've always been a big fan of like the Simon Sinek and the personal development and research like that. So when I started hearing about the different avenues that THF uses to approach to learn about yourself, I was like totally geeked out about it, and like I had to be a part of this. So I took Joe's advice from day one, which was lean into it. And when I did my interview, I said I want to be a yacht broker, I think, and people are like, I don't even know what that is. Why? Okay. So I took everything I thought I wanted to do, I put it in a book, I put it on the shelf, and just listened and did everything THF told me to do. I really dug the storytelling, where we had to tell stories to our own teammates, and we had a listener and like a coach to kind of keep it going along, and they start to pick out the themes. So there's a lot of similar themes that came up in mine, and then the Simon Sinek why, finding that circle, and then the big one was at the end. We did the project box and the Legos and the cards, and we had just a few moments to put this thing together. So you really couldn't overthink it. It was just all what's subconscious. And my theme at the very end was me climbing these stairs of success with the water in the background, and transitioning from being this special operations guy to a normal civilian. And it took a couple of weeks, and I got a phone call from THF about a SEAL out of SOCOM captain that did an internship at Galati Yachts in Tampa. I called those guys. I followed up on more of my 50 cups of coffee. And the very next day I called a local brokerage I tracked down here in San Diego that I've been talking to for about a year, and started like an unofficial internship because COVID was in full effect. I wasn't having to go into the office. So I was coming in here and just learning parts about the business, and really diving into the whole maritime and marine industry, and just trying to figure out what it was. And that's why I've learned even more, which led to me starting my business with my captain's license. So it was all those projects that we did at THF, from the storytelling to the why to the subconscious thinking and building these projects. It all confirmed where my happiness was, and now I have a job that's not a job. What didn't? Nothing really. Every bit of THF resonated with me. There wasn't one thing I was disappointed in. Then when we had a transition from going in person to the whole virtual because of COVID, the coach, I threatened my coach I was going to adopt him. So we stay in touch to this day. He helps me with my business models. I bounce things off of him. He keeps me in check, forces me to not overwork. Adam, we talked about this the other day about working, 200 hours a week because you can, and not overdoing it. But THF connected me with a guy that was already connected to the maritime industry of San Diego, just as a passion of his. And because I remember telling everybody at THF, like, did you do this on purpose? Because me and him connected in every shape or form. So a lot in common, and he's still there by my side. Weekly, we chat and have dinner and coffees and stuff still to this time. And even the people he connected me with. So there isn't a single thing that didn't work or resonate the THF gave me, like the tools and opportunity.
That's so awesome. I love hearing stories like that. So Chris, I'm going to bring it back to you. So how did THF help you tell your story? And did it feel authentic to you when you started to share it with others, or did it take a little bit to kind of roll around and massage it a little to make it feel a little bit more personal?
So I think that's going to vary quite a bit by your personality and how you are. I was pretty comfortable with talking to people, so I didn't particularly need a ton of help getting to a comfortable spot. Now, what it did do is, like I said, there's a process, and it sort of helped you build those blocks, to kind of put your story together in a coherent manner. Because I'm a guy, I'll just get to talking and I'll find myself going all over the place, right? So this sort of helped me build a very coherent, tight, elevator speech. You want to have one of those in your hip pocket. A longer conversation when you need to have that. And what it did kind of help me get my head around is the fact that people do love to hear stories, right? So as long as whenever you're having that conversation, kind of make it something that's relatable, tie it back to a story, turn it into a story, whatever you need to do. And you just become instantly more relatable. So again, very good process. I didn't struggle with that. I imagine there are people that were not comfortable speaking in public, that had to get, really uncomfortable to get there. But hey, everybody crushed it. It was good to see, people come along and you do it in small groups. And it was interesting to see guys struggling in the small groups, but then, we all encourage each other. And then by the time you do story night, everybody gave some, they were all really powerful. So it was neat to see how the process worked. And in fact, it clearly did.
Thank you. Do you still use your story when you're talking with others and meeting people for the first time? Or do you feel like you're far ahead of that?
Yeah, no. I think I still do, probably not exactly the same format that I did with THF going through that. Again, some of the stories are really, really, when you have story night, some of them are very, very personal and talk about some pretty wild stuff, right? So clearly not all of those would be appropriate in a business environment. Yes, absolutely. I still use the tools that I developed there, and the concepts that I learned there, to shape the conversations that I have. Today it's conversations that I'm now having with clients or with my new business partners and stuff. And absolutely, I still use all the things I learned from THF.
That's awesome. Thank you. So Chad, I want to come back to you. So regarding the 50 cups of coffee, so did you find them to be helpful? Was it an Olympic sport for you, or was it a little bit outside of your comfort zone?
Well, so I utilized the 50 cups of coffee. It was more like 10 cups of coffee. About a month into it, I got a soft job offer from Homeland Security for the position I'm in now. And they said, hey, we need your resume. So I hit up people to help me with my resume to begin with. And then to bounce questions off of how should I talk, what should I do, blah, 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 for interviewing. And then I needed Homeland Security, if people don't know, I'll tell you right now, it takes about a year to get hired on because they do their own background investigations. Even though you may have a TSSCI currently, they do things differently. So I needed another job to get me through. So I also interviewed with Southwest Research Institute while I was still going through the Honor Foundation. And I used the 50 cups of coffee and my coach to help tailor my resume for them as well, because that was a project management job, which was a lot different than what I'm doing now. And, that is basically, I sought out the people that I thought would help guide me and support me and tell me if, I'm thinking crazy and I shouldn't do that, or I should do that. And it's kind of where I was with the 50 cups of coffee. I know a lot of people are just going through the Honor Foundation and then they go out and do that. And it was just happenstance that I was able to get these job offers going through.
Do you still continue with your cups of coffee?
No, but I'm more than willing to sit down if anyone ever wants to do a cup of coffee with me. And I've also referred one of my friends to the Honor Foundation, and he's now a coach there. So I'm always trying to help out the Honor Foundation and help other people out.
Right on. Thank you. So Ryan, I want to come back to you. I know you spoke a little bit about your coach. If you wouldn't mind sharing what your experience was with your coach. And one of the most common things that I hear as a coach and a mentor is that they want to be able to do something for me, and they want to give back. And it's from a coach and a mentor perspective, that's not why we're here. We're here because we want to support you. So I'm wondering what your experience was and your relationship was with your coach as you went through it, and how you felt about it.
Oh man. When we first met, we started kind of breaking down, like, he's related to his son was in Navy EOD at the time. Yeah, he was an avid sailor. He was an avid lover of the maritime environment, entrepreneur, businessman. I was like, oh my God, like everything I'm interested in, everything I want to learn about. And he was very genuine, very fatherly to me. We connected right off the bat, and I just, whenever he gave me an assignment, I took it on. He challenged me. He introduced me to a lot of people in the San Diego network, because this is where I was trying to stay at. That kind of tied into the maritime environment, and some of those people are very influential people. So it was like diving in the deep end on how you talk to people, and in the business perspectives, CEOs and business owners and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing. I mean, he did have a military background as well, growing up, but it was more just he wanted to share his genuineness with other people that actually cared. So and he understood the THF roles. He had like the curriculum, so he knew where to kind of play off at what phase I was in, and he was very sensitive to like where I was in my process, and didn't push me beyond, but kept me moving along and hold me accountable. That was the big one. I mean, he just random text messages or phone calls like, where are you at with this? And I want to see this by this day. Hey, we're going to meet up next Friday. I want to see your business model by next Friday. But he wasn't intimidating. He just kept me he was like an accountability partner. And even again, to this day, he still calls and checks in on me, and we meet up all the time. And as I'm going through these last few months, and I've been changing my approach to some stuff and still learning me, he's helping me kind of go through it, and again, continue to hold me accountable so I continue to grow. So it's been a great experience with that guy.
I'm so happy to hear that. I actually would I'm going to go off script a little bit, because I think this is a really valuable question in terms of what it means to you. So I'd kind of like to ask the same question. So Jerry, I'd like to ask the question of you, because you've seen it from beginning to end and even behind the curtain. So when you were going through the program yourself, if you would talk a little bit about your experience with your coach as well.
No, thank you, Brage. Honestly, it's Ryan did a really good job. I always wondered, and I wonder now as the director, like how did they do that so successfully? But I mean, I learned we do the interview. So I get to interview every fellow that comes through, and I saw Joe had a question I'll talk about in a little bit, but I get to do all the interviews, and I know all of our coaches. So when I pair them up, I'm trying to set a pretty good match already for what you're looking for and where you go. And I didn't understand that when I went through. And I was very fortunate when I went through that my predecessor, Joe Laura, did that for me as well. And my coach was amazing. Like, we went through everything I needed. He was there to answer and help guide me. He answered the tough questions that I had. He helped me kind of figure out where I wanted to go, kept me accountable with that. And what I found most interesting is when I had an opportunity to meet other coaches as well in the staff, and they did what they called poach a coach. So we would sit down for dinner before the class, and you would meet some of the other coaches. And if there were industries or areas that I was looking at, I could reach out to the other coaches as well, and I would go and have cups of coffee with them. So by the end of my process, I probably ended up with like 4 different coaches that really kind of helped move me in different directions so I could get what I wanted from everybody that like kind of fulfilled me. And that's, as I work through this with the new fellows coming through, I still explain that, in the class when we start out day 1, you may be assigned a coach, but all of the coaches understand how this works. They're all available for everybody. And every cohort, I end up having a couple of coaches that end up with more than one fellow. So I think that's it for me on that.
Thank you. I think that's wonderful. Chris, would you mind sharing your experience with your coach as well?
Yeah, it was similar. And they're all very different, and your experience is going to be very personal. I had, an older lady who was my coach. She's a professional coach. Like, that's what she does. She's an executive coach. And I was not sure how this was going to really go, but we got along great. You kind of establish your own rapport and battle rhythm. And we had a weekly meeting throughout. And she had like extra stuff. She had some books she wanted me to read, but I mean, they figured out, they figure you out. It's like Jerry said, they're all connected. She did a great job of getting me kind of off top dead center and moving on the cups of coffees, because she kind of figured out who I was. And she's like, all right, I got 3 or 4 people that I want you to start having your cups of coffee with. And then you start from there. And then the cups of coffee just sort of, you end every one of those with, hey, thanks for your time. Who else do you think I ought to, now that you know me a little bit, who else should I be talking to, right? And then it just, it increases exponentially if you want to go there. So I had a great experience. They're always pretty good about, they all have strengths and weaknesses, right? And they're usually very, very self-aware, and they tell you what they're good at. So mine told me she was really great at resumes, and she was really great. She was very well connected and knew how to get me going. But she's like, hey, I'm not good at helping you figure out who you are. So if you need help with that, THF is going to have to do it, or we're going to have to find you, someone else who can kind of help you pick yourself apart. So they generally will tell you what they can and can't do for you. And like Jerry said, it's a very broad network. I mean, Joe was kind of running it when I went through, and he sort of laid out for us. He's like, if you look at all the coaches we have, either active or, kind of waiting in the wings, I mean, there's pretty much not a company in the US that they don't have some sort of connection with, right? So it's a very, very valuable tool who's going to open up a door for you to any company that to at least get you that first conversation, right? And get the process started. So very powerful tool. I really enjoyed my experience. She has made herself available to me. I've emailed her when I did get hired, and when I went through some of the compensation process, she stayed engaged with me on that. And she's like, hey, if you ever need me, I'm here. In practicality, we don't really communicate routinely anymore, but I know that she's there if I need her, and that's a really cool feeling.
Wonderful. So Chad, I just want to close out with you with your experience with your coach.
I think Chris and I may have had the same coach. Mine was an older lady that did the same thing. She was a professional coach named Judy. She was pretty awesome. She took care of me, helped guide me as I was going through. I felt like she was kind of like a counselor. You go see a counselor and you're already answering your own questions, but they're verifying what you are saying is correct. And she also helped me translate some of the military culture and speak over to the civilian world, which was really valuable when I started doing interviews and resumes and such there. So I haven't kept in contact with her for a little while, but we email back and forth once in a while. Honestly, all the coaches, I did some poach a coach as well, just like Jerry did, and they're all open to help you with whatever you need. It's just finding the coach that you feel comfortable with and that can guide you down the path that you're looking for, because everyone's going to look for a different path, right? Whether you're doing entrepreneurial stuff like Ryan or Chris is helping out the community still in his way, or whatever it is that you're looking for. I have a friend that's teaching some sort of like cold water exercise out in Montana in the freezing water as rehabilitation. But that's what, he went through the Honor Foundation with me, and that's what he's enjoying it. So, I think the biggest takeaway, don't focus on money and getting a job. Focus on what you want to do, because when you get out, if you have a job that you don't like, trust me, when I was in my in-between job at Southwest Research, it was miserable. Get something that you spent however many years in the Navy. You want to find something that is fulfilling when you get out. If it's not fulfilling, you can start spiraling pretty quick.
I agree with that. I also think that I'm sorry?
Can I add to Chad's thing on the coach? It just sparked a thing real quick on that as well.
Please.
And
please.
Those of you that end up applying and going through the Honor Foundation and getting that coach, it's really the same thing that Chad just said. Not every experience is going to be ideal. We're all people. We have relationships. We try to figure things out. But if you're open and vulnerable and willing to tell your coach what you want, it helps them accommodate what they're going to be able to do for you a little bit better. And think about it from that perspective. Like, it may not be the ideal relationship right out the gate. That's why you have other coaches and other avenues. And that's where that 50 cups of coffee come in. Feel free to go out and engage with other people and find ways to get to where you need to be.
I think what's also important, just to add on to what you said, Jerry, is during your initial meeting with your coach, is to have that conversation of setting expectations. Here's what I'm expecting out of this relationship. Here's how often I want to meet with you. These are the things that are of concern for me. And then the coach can say, well, here are my expectations around, working together and, the assignments that I will give in addition to, what you're doing through THF. And for me personally, I found that to be very helpful because you open the kimono up front. And so you go in knowing exactly what to expect and how to engage. And if there's any questions, you should both be checking in with each other. Is this working? How's my style? What more do you need from me? What do you need less from me? And that really helps as you go along with the relationship. And then, building that trust as well, because this is essentially a perfect stranger that you expect to, just start talking to about something that's very personal, which is your transition. So the more upfront and transparent you can be upfront, I think the better your experience is going to be. So we got a little bit of time left. And so if you've got questions, please include them in the chat, in the Q&A chat. We've got several that have come through. So I'm just going to read through some of them, if that's okay. So the first one is, would it still be worth a retiree that has already been in the contracting or corporate field since transitioning? So I think what they're asking is, even though they've already retired and they're in the corporate world, can they still go through THF?
So now that also goes to the eligibility requirements earlier. And currently, if you're retired, the program is only open to SOCOM operators right now. So SEAL, SWCC, and then Army, Air Force, and Marine Special Forces. Once you're retired, you're good. So everybody else, enablers, EOD, all that, if you've retired, you're no longer eligible. So, but yeah, it's 100% worth it wherever you're at if you have the opportunity to come in.
Thank you. So Ryan, this question actually came in for you. Which skills from your EOD background have helped you the most in being successful in the yacht brokerage business?
I think team building and like management of people. I think my last role is operations. And even when I started the company LCPO spot, where I had to learn to network, and I had to get outside my comfort zone. I had to go talk to people outside of our little circle, whether it was the Mulvian circle or EOD group circle, Mine Warfare Center circle, to start to pull other resources together. I didn't know what right now in yacht brokering and the marine industry, I really didn't know what I didn't know until I dove feet first into this. And when I started XMCM, as one of the first companies to go out the door, whatever year that was, nobody really knew what it was supposed to look like. So I had to learn. And so it was diving head first into it, eyes wide open. And it wasn't until I got into the middle of it all that I really started to take it all in and then kind of develop for myself. Because you always hear what other people think it should be, but you have to make it what it is to you. And that's I did for XMCM, what I did for operations, what I did for EOD. And that's what I've been doing since I've gotten in the marine industry. I've changed my path. I've corrected my path so many times in the last year. And I'm refining, I'm trying to tighten up my shot group to really hone in on my happiness. And I find myself again, in the operations role, I was always trying to help people get employed and supporting all the different people in the mobile unit. It didn't matter what role they're in. Now I have people from the local soft community coming and talking to me because I'm also a captain on one of the yachts I sold. I manage it. So I'm really helping people kind of build into this network. So it was really that big networking piece and just diving all into it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Jerry, these next two are with regards to the process overall and what's going on. So the first one is, can you go into a little bit more detail on the application process and the acceptance process into THF? So we know the who, so then what's the how?
Yes. So pretty simple. www.honor.org. Go to our website. On there, it's a quick button that says apply. That's where you'll find the application. You click on the application. It'll take you about 20 to 30 minutes to get all of your information together and entered into the system. It goes down all the criteria. What command do you come from? Who are you? What's your status? Are you married? How many kids do you have? How many deployments have you done? Where that? And then we ask some questions to kind of get to know you a little bit better, finding out what your interests are, where you want to be outside of the military, what brought you to this transition and all that. So about 20, 30 minutes, you fill out the application. Once you hit submit, it goes into our tracking system and you pop up on my radar as a prospect, depending on what location you're in. We run classes spring and fall for in-person at Virginia Beach, San Diego, and Camp Lejeune, with virtual running summer, fall, and spring. And that's anywhere around the world if you're not in one of those locations. We're also opening up a Fort Bragg campus as well. So those will all be on the website. Once I receive that under prospect, we put in, figure out what your timelines are. What are you looking at? Our preferred timing for that is 12 to 18 months. We'll look at you at 24 months, however you may roll into a class. The sweet spot is at 12 to 18 months. That gives you enough time to go through the course, figure out where you want to be, get all of your other transition stuff done, and be eligible to start your next career outside of the military. So we look at those numbers of determining factors. We look at eligibility based off of if you're in SOCOM, if you're an enabler, where do you fall out through priority? And then we look at class numbers. Currently, we cap them at 40 individuals per class, so 40 fellows per class. If we have more than that in an area, then you will move to the next class. If we have just a ton of prospects, we will look at finding a way to get you in. As Adam had mentioned earlier, I'll set a deadline date before each class. Each campus has a deadline about a month before the class start date to allow everybody to get their applications, all that stuff in, and then to conduct the interview. Once your application is submitted, everything's in, I've got you on the roster. I will come through and we will do a in-person interview. Now that we are over COVID a little bit, you can come into the office and see me. We'll sit down and talk about all the information on your application. I will ask you some questions to get to know you. Things like, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What brought you into the military? What did you do while you're in the military? And what leads you to your retirement? And then after that, we'll compile all the information, put it together, and selection is pretty much just determined off of availability of the class and do you meet the right requirements.
So when you're asking those types of questions, what type of story are you looking for? Anything in particular, or you're just learning, or you're just trying to learn more about the applicant?
Basically just trying to learn more about you. At this point, we don't expect you to be polished and ready to roll for an interview to get a job somewhere. What I'm really looking for is the basics, like how did you grow up? What impacted your life? What have you done in the military? What's important to you? And what I'm really looking at is, what type of person are you and how can I pair you up with the ideal coach when you come through? Like, we have different coaches from different backgrounds that have so many amazing things, and they're offering this time to help. So I want to make sure that you get the right person to help you continue that journey. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. So another question that came in for you, Jerry, is will THF be going back to TREX during the cohort? And if they are, then how can NSOF help support the NCO members in their THF journey?
Okay, perfect. So yes, the answer is yes. Short answer, yes, we are doing TREX for all the in-person cohorts, and we will do virtual TREX for the virtual class as well. Those will start with our fall classes. We have all those starting up in September. Deadline for registration is August 15th. Please don't wait until August 15th and leave me with 30 people to interview in 5 days, because you will not get accepted. So put in now. I'll have everything by the 15th. But yeah, we're going into a major city in the U.S. Location is determined. We're working on determining it right now. We will get back to 10 companies somewhere. And NSOF, what can you do? The The Honor Foundation is free for all participants that are coming through. However, it is not free to run. So for NSOF, if you can raise a ton of money for the EOD community and start pouring that into THF, then we will get more EOD guys going to Trex and it'll be good to go.
Nice plug. So we had another question that came in, which you touched on briefly. How long before getting out or retirement is ideal to attend THF? And I think I heard 12 to 18 months is the sweet spot. 24 months is also a good time reference. I would almost push out to the 18 to 24 months personally, simply because the more time you have to plan, depending on whether you know what direction you want to take or not, I think is going to determine how much extra time you need just to figure out who you want to be on the other side of your transition. So is that the correct time frame between the 12, 18, 24?
No, that's good, Brage. We really try to look at, 18 months gives you that time. And then there's so many other factors too, that depends on your command, what your availability is. I don't know if things have changed drastically since I retired, but I can't imagine very many CEOs letting you start doing this 2 years before you're out. Maybe Mr. Merwin can answer that from the experience level on that one, but I would say 18 months is pretty ideal.
Okay, thank you. I think the planning piece for the 20, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ryan.
Sorry. Yeah, like what Jerry is saying, and I've been telling a lot of people that I run into, at your 24 months, if you're 24 months from your EAOS, you better start coming up with a plan, whether you plan on getting out or you plan on staying in, but like preparing yourself. So when you hit that 18 to 12 month mark or 12 to 18 month mark, you better be signed up for THF or something similar to help you learn and understand this and really develop that why and all the tools that THF gives you. Because if you're waiting the nominal, what a lot of leaders are trying to push in the military, like kind of holding you back at that 3 to 6 month mark, you're going to get your butt kicked for this first, because the transition doesn't end after you get out. Like, I've only been a couple months out, and it changes every week, and the emotional roller coaster goes up and down. And we talk about in THF, your first job when you first get out, and then there's like 2 or 3 more jobs before your 2-year mark. So trying to like stop that. But that whole learning who you are takes a long time, not 3 months, not 6 months. And THF really jumpstarts and gives you the tools, and then that book, like, so you can never forget all that stuff. Because as I've been going through on my personal stuff, I've been going through this process. Even when I try to get away from what my why was or my passion is, I keep coming back to it. Whether it's driving boats or selling boats or managing boats, one of my whys was creating a platform to help other people have opportunities. And I find I get more joy out of like helping people and connecting people with the opportunities and what I'm doing right now in this industry, and showing guys in EOD or the special boat teams, there's other amazing things you can do with your skill sets that aren't like tied to what you were doing in the Navy. And that's where you really start to get that happiness, because like it's a job, but it's not a job. For me, I walk the docks, I sit on yachts and sell yachts. Like I go to yacht shows in Florida, and it's so different. But just showing people that there are these other things out there, because even, at THF, in the cups of coffee and the job stuff, you start to learn these different job positions in different parts of industry that are still kind of tied to what your passions are, but you don't learn those until you get out and you have that freedom to like maneuver and run, and you're not really accountable to a boss. You're just kind of like your own boss. But that big learning process happens. You want to shorten that learning process. You want to be 6 months in the Navy and learning. So when you hit that end of service date, you are like at a brisk jog or a sprint. Otherwise, you're going to spend months post Navy trying to figure out life. And they forget to tell you that it takes a couple months to get your retirement pay and your VA pay. And if you ain't set up, like, you're going to be struggling those first few months, and it's a kick in the pants to the family.
Awesome. Thank you. So we are at time. We're a little bit over. I want to give everyone an opportunity who is in attendance to ask a question of the panel if you've got one. And if not, if you're looking for transition advice, guidance, or you want to start talking about what that's going to look like for you, there is an area on the NSOF website where you can request assistance, and that will come to Susanna and myself, and we would be more than happy to help you work through any of your transition questions and start planning for your next step. So Adam, is there anything else we want to add, include?
Yeah. So real quick for NSOF, we will, as far as with you going on a trek through the THF, we will fund flights up to $350 and fully fund your lodging, which is actually pretty big depending on where you go on that trek, and it really helps out. That's one of our agreements with the THF. Also, we went over a lot. I think that the conversation was excellent. You guys did an incredible job. I thank you so much for sharing that. But there's a lot thrown at you today, and I encourage everyone to go to the NSOF website. On there, it's pretty easy to get to the transition assistance. You can learn more about THF, and obviously you can go to the THF website. But also on NSOF, there's more information about our professional networking partnerships, defense contracting partnerships, areas where you can explore tech career exploration, our higher career or higher education pathway. We have a professional resume service that we will, if you request support in that area, we will fund that and help you get a professionally written resume. And also on there, we have the professional network database. There is a lot of EOD techs that have been out that are doing incredible things, not only over the country, but all over the world. And our goal through the foundation is to bring them together so that as guys are getting out or girls are getting out, we have a network that we can set them up with people to help them to get to where they want to go. So I encourage everyone to go to the website. It's really easy to request support. Just go to nsof.org, click on programs, go down to request support, fill out the form. We'll get back to you, just like Brage was talking about. On there, if you click on, when you're under programs, click on transition, go to the bottom, you'll see the actual professional network database. Go in there, put your information in there, keep it updated, and let's use that. Let's actually use that and build that out so it's a really good tool for everyone else getting out. Again, I want to remind everybody about the post-event surveys. They're going to be coming out at the conclusion of this webinar. This is your foundation. Help us to guide it so it serves the community better. Look out for next Pathways to Purpose webinar. This was the second. We plan on doing these every other month, and we're going to be announcing when that's going to happen and what it's going to be about. And lastly, we've got some really good upcoming events. A major announcement is we're doing our first ever gala event on the West Coast. We've missed the gala events the past 2 years on the East Coast, but this is a huge opportunity to do one on the West Coast. It is happening on October 9th at the Hilton at Bayfront. I will be out there, and a lot of the people that are part of the foundation will be out there. So for those of you who don't know, it's a black tie event, and it is probably one of the best times you'll have. Everybody's getting together for a good cause, and it turns into just one hell of a night. So I encourage everybody to get out there for that. It will be a great party. And second, the Memorial Garden on Little Creek and Virginia Beach is in the process of being approval. Hopefully we get that soon. We're expecting groundbreaking and approval this year. We are accepting pledges on the website. Please get to the website, take a look at it if you haven't seen it. Once it gets accepted, those pledges will become actual donations. And that's it. And if no one else has anything, I would like to extend a huge thank you. I'm humbled to be here with this panelist. You guys did an amazing job. I thank you for your input. I thank you for your time. Brage, you're awesome. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for what you've done. I want to thank the NSOF organization for putting this together, and I really appreciate everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. You guys were awesome, and I'm humbled to be in your presence, and I feel like I need to grow some facial hair to really fit in with the group. So I'll start working on that. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and please reach out if you have questions about anything and everything. We are always here to support you within the community. So we're here.
Oh, yeah. If you want to get a hold of anybody that was on the panel or myself or Brage, if either check out that networking sheet or send a request in for support, and we'll get you in contact with them. So cool.
And also, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn as well.
All right. Thank you.
Woohoo. All right. Thanks.